Cek, cek.
Yes. Okay. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning from Duta Wacana, and we would like to apologize for these technical issues. But anyway, it's okay now. And me, Arida, this morning, I'm happy to welcome you to our second session of webinar with the theme Online Classroom from Competencies to Assessment. This webinar is proudly presented by MGMP Provinsi DIY and Prodi PBI UKDW. All right, before we start our second session today, let's have a moment of silence, and we're going to ask for God's blessing that we will have a fruitful session this morning. A moment of silence started now. Thank you. Okay, so I know that everybody is very excited to join our session this morning. And please allow me to remind you of some rules for our session this morning. Mas Penta, could you please help me to show the second slide? Yeah, all right. Before we see the biodata of the presenters, or before we know further about our presenters, we're going to have the announcement. We're going to send you the evaluation link. So for all participants who already registered yourself through the Zoom form registration, please don't forget to check the evaluation link. We're going to share it in the chat box later. And if you're asking for the material, it would be available in the download center. And then after we have our 4 speakers with 2 topics, we're going to have all the Q&As after the presentation. And then the next slide, please. Yeah. All right. So everyone is here. Let me remind you, please use your real name. So please check your name that you use for this Zoom conference. Make sure that you're using your name, not your gadget or your institution. And then you will be muted during the webinar. And if you want to ask questions or you have concerns, you can type this one, tanya, and then underscore nama, underscore institusi, underscore pertanyaan ditujukan kepada, boleh disebutkan nama pembicara, kepada siapa pertanyaan ditujukan dan pertanyaannya apa. Sekali lagi, tanya, underscore nama, underscore institusi ibu dan bapak, underscore pertanyaan ditujukan kepada siapa, underscore pertanyaan. And then, sertifikat akan dibagikan kepada peserta yang mengikuti acara dari awal sampai berakhirnya webinar. Peserta yang tidak mengisi Zoom form pendaftaran sebelum acara dimulai dan tidak mengisi evaluasi saat acara selesai tidak mendapatkan sertifikat. Link evaluasi akan dibagikan di akhir acara dan mohon Bapak Ibu catat dan ingat juga link ini hanya aktif sampai jam 1 siang. Ya, oke. Apabila Ibu dan Bapak bermasalah dengan Zoom, Bapak Ibu bisa juga mengikuti ya live streaming di YouTube Prodi PBI UKDW. Oke. Nah, alright, let's go to the next slide, Mas Penta. Alright, so I'm going to read the short bio of our first speaker today, Ibu Yuana Purnaminingsih MPD. She is an English teacher in SMAN 1 Kretek Bantul. She is a graduate of English Education Department of Yogyakarta State University. She got her master's degree on Educational Management from Yogyakarta State University as well. Okay, since 2015, she has been working with the Directorate General of Teachers and Education Personnel, or GTK Kemdikbud, as a teacher trainer and a writer of Teachers Learning Unit. In 2017 to 2019, she worked with the Education Assessment Center, or PUSPENDIC, as the items writer of National Examination and items reviewer as well. Since last year, she's also involved in the production of learning media Smart English Today from PPMRPK Kemdikbud. Some of her notable achievements are the first champion of Regional Outstanding Teacher in 2012. In the same year, she also became the third champion of Provincial Outstanding Teacher. And then becoming the first champion of Regional Dedicated Teacher in 2019 and the third champion of Provincial Dedicated Teacher also in 2019. Okay, so without further ado, let's welcome Ibu Yuana Purnaminingsih MPD with the topic Creating Teachers to the Cultivate Competencies.
Thank you, Ibu Arida. Bapak Ibu, thank you for joining this webinar. My thanks also goes to PBI UKDW, Ibu Mega, Ibu Pipit, and the team for having me in this webinar this morning. Bapak Ibu, I'm going to share my screen. Well, I'm sorry. The title for today's meeting is Creating Bridges to the Targeted Competencies. I'm so sorry, Bapak Ibu, because my background, as mentioned by the moderator, I am a senior high school teacher. So this is a guide to method development and assessment, but it is in senior high school context in Indonesia. So everything that I am going to discuss will be related to senior high school in Indonesia. My talk will include the first one is content of teaching and learning. It will be about how I usually develop the materials in my teaching, and then the second will be about technological tools that I used. Bapak Ibu maybe remember that in the first webinar, the presenter has told us about this thing that we should consider the content of our teaching, and then after that, we then should consider the technology that we used. We can say content first, technology second, or in the previous webinar, the presenter said task before apps. So this is what I'm going to share with you all about what I have done until recently. Next, this is what I usually do in my teaching. I usually begin, when I start teaching, I usually begin with what do we want our students to be able to do and what do we want our students to create at the end of the lesson. So I try to set the clear learning outcomes, or some people say it as target competencies. Okay, and then because we are the teachers in Indonesia, by regulation, all Indonesian teachers should refer to the regulation. The goal of our teaching should be referred to basic competence in 2013 curriculum. And then to hold the assessment, we should also refer to what we call panduan penilaian or guidance for assessment. Okay, now, Bapak Ibu, we are going to try to look at the basic competencies in brief. There are around 60 basic competencies that are in our curriculum, both from Bahasa Inggris and Bahasa and Sastra Inggris. But in brief, all of the basic competence can be summarized as what I saw, what I present here. So there are the verb menerapkan, and then the materials will be about fungsi sosial, struktur teks, dan unsur kebahasaan. And then the text type, text interaksi interpersonal, text interaksi transaksional. In short, text interaksi means something like conversation. And then for the text fungsional khusus, like the short functional text or text type, the students, or the goal that we are going to achieve, is that the students should be able to analyze. The verb usually membedakan. And then again, if we summarize the basic competence, then for interaksi transaksional and interpersonal, students are supposed to teach both lisan and tulis. And then if we summarize the materials, for text interaksi interpersonal and transactional, mostly the materials is about language expression, grammar focus, and cohesive devices. And then for text fungsional khusus, or we usually say short functional text, the materials are announcement, invitation, caption, advertisement, letter, etc. And then text fungsional here is that what we usually say text type. Okay, then now let me continue. In the first time when the 2013 curriculum was applied, I was really confused about fungsi sosial, struktur teks, and unsur kebahasaan. Because in the previous curriculum, when we talk about fungsi sosial, then we only think about something like to entertain the readers, to convince the reader, something like that. And then at that time, when we talk about struktur teks, then we only think about orientation, communication, and resolution, something like that. But finally, I got the answer. I refer to what is launched by Badan Standar Nasional Pendidikan, that fungsi sosial can also include so many things, which is topik, tujuan, etc., as you can see on the slide. So for example, when I teach transactional text, here we have peran dan fungsi pembicara. So I teach my student about who are the speakers. And then when I also will teach them about konteks penggunaan. For example, where does the conversation most probably takes place. And then when I teach narrative, then I will teach them how to find sikap or nilai yang diusung. That is the way how I read this lingkup materi. And if we continue to the struktur text or text structure, I teach them about main idea, argumentation, or in narrative, I teach them about the plot, etc. Now let's see the next slide. What I mentioned before is in pengetahuan or knowledge. But in our curriculum, the basic competence also consists of keterampilan, which is most of the achievements should be about menyusun or creating, whether it is interactional text, interpersonal text, or transactional text. And the methods are the same. And then for the next, menangkap makna and menyusun, especially for short functional text in text type. But there are some materials that the student do not need to be able to create, which is about poem, song, proverb, legend. So they are not supposed to be able to create. So they only need to to understand. Now, as I said before, that we should also refer to panduan penilaian, and that is the regulation that the government gave us. So we have to do penilaian pengetahuan or knowledge assessment, and we also have to do skill assessment or keterampilan. And then the summary can be seen as in the screen. So when we want to assess the student knowledge, we can do it by having written test or spoken test, or we can also give tasks to the student. And when we have to assess the skill competence, we can use this kind of technique. So I will jump to the next, because if you are high school teachers, I am sure that you are familiar with this diagram. Now, what I usually do in my teaching is that, as I said before, that I will first think about the content of my teaching before I think about the tools that I'm going to use. Now, in general, the pattern that I use to plan the teaching scenario is that about text modeling. Here, when I check the KD, the basic competence, and then if it is about interpersonal or transactional or functional text, then I will use the same as what is mentioned in the basic competence. And then the tag modeling is followed by discussing and making generalization. Sometimes students cannot find the focus that they should learn. And then here, the next will be guided practice tasks. So here, the teacher should provide some activities that support to the achievement. And then the last, this is the goal of our teaching, which is creating, whether creating interpersonal or functional text. So this is the general pattern. Now, let us try to see the basic competence. Take for an example. I took this basic competence from year 10 basic competence. Please pay attention to the word that I highlighted. So on the left is about pengetahuan, and then on the right is the keterampilan or skill. So the goal of our teaching will be menerapkan, and then yang diterapkan adalah teks interaksi transaksional lisan dan tulis. And then the material is grammar, should have something like that. And then for the skill achievement, the students are supposed to be able to create the text, which is text interaksi transaksional. It can be lisan or tulis. Now, this is This is the general clue that I use to develop the material. So, because in the previous that I have shown that I'm going to teach about transactional text. So the tag modeling should be dialogue. When the dialogue is about language function, when the materials is about language function, sometimes I give them spoken dialogue. But if it is about grammar, because my student will find it difficult to understand dialogue, which its focus is on the grammar, so I give them written dialogue. And then it will be followed by discussing about the structures, and then it also will be continued by giving some tasks. The task again should try to provide activities to support to the achievement of our goal or the basic competence that we are going to achieve. And then here, I keep the link from text modeling and the end of the result of their assessment. So if I give the text in a form of transactional, so at the end, I also want my student to create transactional text. So it will be in line with the basic competence. Now, this is the example of my student performance at the end of the lesson, because if I have explained before that the material is about transactional text, and then the material is about the use of should and should have, something like that. And then there is they are supposed to create both spoken and written. Then I ask my student to do this. I think it is very common now that we talk to other person using written form. So I ask my students to do or to work in pair, and then they practice using the structure by having a WhatsApp conversation. Now let us continue to the next example, which is about short functional text. This is not a conversation. So there is a difference here that the students are supposed to differentiate, to analyze the text, and then if you see at the keterampilan here or the skill, there are two basic competence, which is about menangkap makna and menyusun text. So they have to understand a certain text, and they also have to be able to create the text. Okay, the same. I give the text modeling, and then followed by discussion, and then followed by some activities, some tasks that I consider as important to support to the achievement. And then look at the last. I put about 3 and 3 and then 4 and 4. 3 and 3 meaning that, oh, I'm so sorry, it should be 3 and 3 and 1. 3, 3, 1. So this is what we call in basic competence menangkap makna. So, and then the second one, creating, is the second basic competence, which is menyusun, something like that. And this is the result of my student work. So for the basic competence mentioned as menangkap makna, I asked my student to retell or rewrite the content of the text. So this is the principle that I follow. The difference between assessing knowledge and skills is here. If we have, we teach the student or we assess the student competence about the reading comprehension. So we, according to the guidance of assessment, it includes in pengetahuan. But if we are supposed to assess keterampilan or skill, I ask my student to read and then retell or rewrite the text. And in the second basic competence, which is about menyusun, I ask my student to create a caption. And then I try to relate the real use in their daily life. So I ask my student to post the caption in the Instagram. Or for some students who find it not easy or who do not have Instagram account, I give them chance to post the caption on the WhatsApp status. Now, Bapak Ibu, I'm going to have a discussion here. I took one basic competence, which is menerapkan, and then text interaksi transaksional lisan and tulis, and then the materials is about possessive conjunction, even though, although. And then the skill that the student should achieve is about menyusun teks interaksi transaksional lisan dan tulis. Okay, Bapak Ibu, please remember the basic competence because I will show you an example and then I want you to give your opinion about that activity. So menerapkan teks interaksi transaksional and the materials is about possessive conjunction. Now, this is what is done by the teacher. So the students are given the task, which is called picture voicing. Picture voicing is different with caption. So the student give a picture and then they tell the story about the picture. And they should use the possessive conjunction. Compared with the basic competence stated before, that I have I have shared before, do you think that the task is exactly in line with the basic competence? Can you write your opinion in the chat box, please? Okay, well, Bapak Ibu, I'm so sorry. I'm going to share my opinion about this one. So, picture voicing activity, I'm sure that you agree that this is a good activity, but if we decide that the targeted competence is creating a transactional text, at the end of the lesson, students are supposed or should practice using possessive conjunction in a conversation, whether it is written or spoken. So, in my opinion, this activity is not exactly in line with the basic competence stated before, but it is still a good activity that we can use as an enrichment activity after the student practicing using the concessive conjunction in a conversation. Well, Bapak Ibu, I'm going to continue to the next discussion, which is about the technological tool. Okay, this is the tool that I use. In the beginning, I have told you that the first thing I plan is about the content of the teaching, and then I will continue to think by what tools. During this pandemic situation, then I have to think about what apps or what tools that I can use to deliver my teaching. So I will not explain this more. So this is okay. I do not use only one tool, so I use many. So in the first time, when the government decided that we should have distant learning, distant teaching, then the first thing that I have to have is the channel for communication. And then at that time, the teacher in Yogyakarta are supposed to use Jogja GP class, Jogja Belajar class. But it was not, it didn't work well. So I talked to other teachers in my school because we have to make agreement about the tools that we are going to use for our teaching. I said that I talk to other teachers because I assume that some of my students have some of the students have low spec of mobile phones, so that if I ask them to install so many applications, that it will be a problem for them. So because I have limited time, so I will continue to the next. Okay. So I have so many reasons. I will not explain more. Now, I'm going to talk about the assessment. As I have mentioned before, that we are supposed to have knowledge assessment and skill assessment. So sometimes English teachers, including me, is confused because English is different from sport subject, where knowledge and assessment can be something which is that can be separated. But in English, the boundary is different. So the barrier between knowledge and skill is not clear. So this is where how to solve my problems, how to how to differentiate between my knowledge assessment and skill assessments. Take for example, when I want to assess about this basic competence. So when I have the written test, because one of the form of penilaian pengetahuan is in the form of written test, then I give this to my students. So when they get the scores, I put the score as nilai pengetahuan. But when I give the student a speaking task like this, then at the end of this activity they have to perform, then I put the score on keterampilan. In general, the assessment can be, can be differentiate something like that. So for short functional text and text type, in penilaian pengetahuan or knowledge assessment, I usually do reading comprehension questions and listening comprehension. So ujian nasional is included in assessing the student knowledge or pengetahuan. Or in my daily activity, in my daily teaching, because the basic competence set membedakan beberapa teks, then I give my student more than one text, and then I ask them to compare, to contrast, and then to find the difference. So that is the way how I assess knowledge. And then for the next is skill assessment. When it is reading activity, for example, reading an exposition test, and then for the performance assessments, for the skill assessment, I ask my student to summarize, or I ask my student to retell or rewrite the text. And for the basic competence, which is about menyusun, then I ask my student to create new text. So they develop the ideas themselves. Okay, Bapak Ibu, that is what I did in my teaching. This is the way how I manage the ups and downs of my teaching practice at school. And then I cannot say that it is something which is good practice, but this is the way how I should solve my problem during the teaching. The way I should follow the regulation, and the way I should manage my class, and also the way how I should try to always think that my student can achieve the basic competence that are stated in the regulation. Bapak Ibu, thank you very much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wow, that's very inspiring, Ibu Yana. As I also checked the chat box, we have some questions, and please type your question in the chat box by following the format, so it's easier to recognize the person who's asking and what your question is. So, okay, before we go to the next speaker, let me remind you, for those who are still using the name of their gadget, kindly change the name of your gadget to your name, so that we can address your question better. Okay, so we have 3 questions so far, Ibu Yuana. I'm going to read the question for you later. And ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to have the second speaker from MGMP, Ibu Rastuti Kindarse, SPDM Master of Accounting. She has been teaching English at SMA Negeri 9 Yogyakarta since 2004. In 1988 to 2004, she taught English in Bengkulu at St. Carolus High School, SMA PGRI, SMAN 2, SMAN 3, SMAN 5. And then after moving to Jogja, she became one of the tutors for online KBS or Kelompok Belajar Siswa, study group coordinated by Pemkot Jogja in 2009 to 2017. She's going to deliver her presentation with the same topic, yeah. Okay, Ibu Wirastuti Kindarsi, are you ready?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ibu Tuti.
Oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Bapak Ibu. Alhamdulillah, let's thank to Allah letting us join in this webinar. Thank also for UKDW. Ya, Bapak Ibu, creating bridges to the targeted competencies. Yeah, Bapak Ibu, a very good morning. Now look at these pictures. Yeah, Bapak Ibu, look at these pictures. There are some bridges here. Yeah. If you want to build a bridge, yeah, to cross a pond, we simply need the wooden bridge. But if you want to connect to island, we need to build a concrete bridge. But sometimes when we want to cross a river, we need to build a complicated or unique bridge like this one. Bapak Ibu, these are the metaphors of teaching and learning process. Yeah. There is a bridge between teaching and developing target competencies of the students. Yeah. So the bridges are built based on the needs of the users, and the users here are the teachers and the students. And the bridges are the activities during the learning and teaching process. Bapak Ibu, so what kind of bridge should be created as a strategy or approach or way for the students? Yeah, Bapak Ibu, as many times do, so maybe every day or every time, so before teaching, before coming to the class, so better if we analyze the characteristic of the class, or we should know, or we should understand the class well. Why? Because the class is a diverse group of students. It consists of students with various background, cultures, readiness for nowadays. Yeah, so we should know whether all students ready with the gadget or not, or laptop or not, and various level of competence, yeah, level of proficiency, readiness, culture, personality, and character. Bapak Ibu, when we understand this condition well, so we are expected to create or to design a creative, innovative bridge to make the students understand and are able to use the competencies in certain language settings. Also, these aimed to be fun and enjoyable during the pandemic COVID-19. Bapak Ibu, let me share you about the activities for the students. Bapak Ibu, as we always do before preparing the activities, better if we prepare the lesson plan. So now let's share the new lesson plan. Yes, as you know that now in lesson plan, yeah, actually there are only 3 components. The previous one consists of 13 components, but for now, actually there are only 3. The first one is the goal of learning, the second is the activity, and the last one is the assessment. But we may also show the basic competence here. So the readers will see so what kind of basic competence will be on this lesson plan. So I provide sample. This is taken from Bahasa Inggris Peminatan grade 10. Ya, so kompetensi dasar is membedakan fungsi and so on. And then for the skill achievement is to create text, yeah, related with the event. So Bapak Ibu, so it's like the sample. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And the goal is siswa dapat menjelaskan, siswa dapat menjelaskan and menyusun, and the last one is siswa dapat menyusun. And for this lesson plan, I made for 3 meetings, yeah. And the last one is only penilaian pembelajaran. Yeah, so there are only 3 components, yeah. Why? Because I think it's good, it's better because based on, especially for nowadays, based on the education, the learning. So there are in a new normal, there are only 2 goals for the students. Yeah. So as a teachers or school, we make sure that the students will get the qualified learning and make sure that or to prevent the students or to prevent with the spread of COVID. Yeah, that's all. That's I mean the goal of learning for nowadays. Okay, we back to the PowerPoint. Yeah, Bapak Ibu. Yeah, based on the lesson plan. Yeah, this one. Yeah, usually we open, but as Bapak Ibu do, yeah, like me that before teaching, yeah, let the students pray, and then after that we motivate the students. Yeah, we want them to be fun and enjoyable. Yeah, to have our class, and this is yeah, this is the activities. This is the activities. The activities based on the lesson plan. Yeah, yeah. So the target competence is the students are able to create the it's like advertisement for an event. Yeah. So, but I just said, yeah, Bapak Ibu may be creative, but based on the class. Yeah, as I said that the class consists of students with various backgrounds. So it's like what I did, yeah. So before we ask them to create, so I provide a sample. This is a dialogue, yeah, based on this one, yeah. And the student may answer the question. Yeah, this is the second activity. But Bapak Ibu, I prepare these activities for 3 meetings, yeah. Because one lesson plan, so one KD for one basic competence can be for 1 meeting or can be for more than 1 meetings. Yeah, and this one, the activities. Yeah, so we guide the students to get the goal of the learning. Yeah. So better if we provide the 4 skills, listening, speaking, reading, and the last one, of course, because the students are asked to create, so we may have the students create an advertisement, for example, for one of the following events. So we provide more than 2 or 4 events, so they may choose one of these. Yeah. Okay. Bapak Ibu, we go on. Yeah. Yeah, now this is the second sample taken from Bahasa Inggris Peminatan grade 12. Yeah, so I show, the basic competence. Yeah, and yeah, menyusun teks. Yeah, for the skill menyusun teks interaksi transaksional. Yeah, so the students, are expected to be able to write the sentences using conditional if. Okay. Yeah, this is the sample, Bapak Ibu. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I will provide the dialogue. Yeah, to make interesting, we provide picture. Yeah, so we give sample the use of conditional if. Yeah, like this one. And maybe we may give the brief explanation, and after brief explanation, we may have the exercise for them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Exercise. And the last one, because we are asked to make them to create sentences, so we provide some pictures. Yeah. So they will be creative to make sentences using if based on the pictures. Yeah. And this is the sample of activities, Bapak Ibu. Okay. Yeah, maybe not many sample. I only provide 2 samples taken from Bahasa Inggris Peminatan grade 10 and grade 12. Yeah. Yeah, again, Bapak Ibu, yeah. Again, Bapak Ibu, that before providing the activities as a bridge to get the target competencies, better we understand or we analyze the characteristic of the students, yeah, or the characteristic of the class, because they have various background, cultures, and so on. Yeah, the personalities, character, it is not easy, but as a teacher, it is challenging, yeah. And especially for nowadays, we must understand well, maybe because each class is not the same, yeah. And not each class, but each school has a different background, yeah. So we must understand, or we must know well for nowadays, because most of the teachers and students they have online class. So make sure that the students, for instance, if they must have an online class, make sure that all students have a gadget, for instance, or laptop. If one or two of them do not have it, so the teachers maybe will have it's like a student visit and so on. Yeah, but again, Bapak Ibu, the bridge here must be creative, innovative, but based on the needs of the users. The users here, Bapak Ibu, and the students. Then the learning and teaching process are very successful because the student understand well and are able to use or to use the competencies in certain language setting. Okay, thank you, Bapak Ibu. If you want to have questions, please don't. Yeah, okay. So I hope that Bapak and Ibu will make a question for me. Okay, thank you. I think that's all. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Ibu Tuti. That's very quick, but also very comprehensive. A lot of information was given in a very limited time. Thank you so much. Okay, from the chat box, and some of the participants also privately chatted me asking some questions. I'm going to note that. And yeah, Bapak Ibu, we welcome your questions, concerns, ideas, thoughts, or best practices that you have conducted in your schools with your students to be shared later. Okay, so yeah, so those are two session or presentations from MGMP. And now for the second half, we're going to have the sessions from Prodi PBI UKDW, from Ibu Endang and Pak Endar. Please allow me to read quick information on Ibu Endang. Yeah, her full name is Dr. Fransisca Endang Lestariningsih and whom she was born in Yogyakarta and received her Bachelor of Education and Master degree and whom from the English Education Study Program and English Studies of Sanata Dharma University in Yogyakarta, Indonesia in 2000 and 2008 respectively. Her doctoral degree in language education was earned in 2019 from the Language Education Sciences program of the State University of Yogyakarta. She also completed an online course on learning styles and strategies from the University of Oregon in 2010. Currently, she teaches teaching English for specific purposes at the English Language Education Department and English for Informatics at the Information Technology Department, UKDW, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Her interests are in ESP, teacher training, and andragogy. Okay, very interesting. I know she's very popular, and you can wait for more minutes to wait to discuss together with her. Okay, she's going to deliver the presentation together with Pak Endar. Let me read a quick information of Pak Endar. Ignatius Triindarto, MA. He currently teaches at the Department of English and Language Education, Universitas Kristen, Duta Wacana, Indonesia. He earned his MA in Linguistics from Naresuan University, Thailand. Previously, he also took a part-time job teaching English and Indonesian languages at some high schools in Thailand. He does research mainly in educational linguistics, computational linguistics, and corpus linguistics. Okay, so both of them would be presenting the materials titled Online Assessments Made Easy. Okay, Bapak Ibu, please welcome Ibu Endang and Pak Endar for the second half of this session.
Thank you very much, Bu Arida, for the very warm welcome to us. I'm not popular, actually. Okay, Bapak Ibu, good morning. I'd like to share my slides, and Pak Endarto and I will do this together. So we are doing TikTok, but for now, not TikTok in, what is it? Like the usual TikTok, but TikTok in presentation. Okay, let me share my screen. All right. This is our topic today, online assessments made easy. Wow, Pak Endar and I that time talk about this topic, and we feel that it's quite not easy at all, because the word easy here, because we have to make sure that what we are doing is easy. But if it's not easy, please tell us later on. All right, but before we continue, I'd like you to have a little bit something fun by having this, right? Could you please, Bapak and Ibu, all the participants in this webinar, use your device, any device, and open this application, joinmyquiz.com, and enter the game code. Well, and here is the game code. Wait. Yeah, could you please enter the game code? The game code 762502. And there are 6 questions, and I'd like you to do all the questions. This is not to test you, but just to have fun this morning as an ice breaking. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Siska Larson. I know you. You are from far away there in US. Okay, thank you. Only this 7 participants. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yep. We are waiting. I think I'm going to wait for 1 more minute, and then I will start the quiz. 12 participants. Yeah. 13, 14. 15. Okay. We wait ya, Pak Endar ya. $21. I'll start if it is 50. Come on, Bapak and Ibu. Because I know we have around 120 something participants today. 22. Yeah, 24. Thank you. 25, yes. Yep. 28, 29. Hello, Bunisa, I know you. Good Betty, thank you so much. 30. Okay, no problem. 30 participants. I will start now. Yeah, Bapak Ibu, the 30 participants, could you please do a quiz? Okay. Thank you very much. Well, all right. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see, wait. Okay, thank you so much for experiencing the quiz. So what do you feel, Bapak Ibu? I see that Siska Larsen is the first, become the winner, the first winner. Okay, well, that's one of the examples of having a kind of quiz that can assess students. So actually, this is not for me. When I use this, it's only for fun, not for testing the students, not for giving score for the students. No, but I want to know the students' background knowledge, yeah, about the about what they already know. Okay. And for this case, this is casing meaning through context clues. Okay. Well, we have discussed a bit. I have mentioned a bit about assessment and also test. And I'm sure that Bapak and Ibu, all the participants here, you already know that assessment and test, they are two different things. And which one is is wider, the test or assessment? Okay, I cannot see the chat room. So, all right. So, wait. Before we discuss assessment and tests, which I am quite sure that everybody knows, there are different things. Now, in our presentation, Pak Endarto and I, we are going to discuss 5 things about everything all about online, because now I think we will have to face, will have to deal with all online or distance learning. So we like it or not, we have to be ready to switch, to switch our paradigm about the face-to-face learning to online learning. And our part, Pak Endarto and I will talk about assessments that is easy for online learning or distance learning. First, we are going to discuss assessment versus testing, as I told you before, and a bit reviewing online and offline, the similarities and the difficulty, the differences. And because this is assessment, so we need to also discuss test development, how to develop tests, especially in online world. And for sure the challenges, I'm sure that the challenges to develop online tests, online assessment to the offline one are quite different, And then countermeasures of the challenges and the examples. Endarto and I will provide examples from 4 skills of English: reading, speaking, listening, and also writing. Now, here is the review a bit. I don't want to talk more about that, about assessments and tests. What is a test? I just want to read this. A test is only simple, is a method of measuring a person's ability, knowledge, or performance in a given domain. We know like IELTS, TOEFL, IBT, and then what's that? What else? Proficiency tests, they are all proficiency tests. And according to Brown, 2004, again, we still use this quite, I don't know, 16 years old book, but still relevant until now. That a test is a prepared administrative procedures that occur at identifiable times in a curriculum. Now, how about assessment? As I told you, assessment is wider than test. Assessment is ongoing process that encompasses a much wider domain. So Bapak Ibu, today we are going to discuss, interchangeably actually, between giving test and also assessment, but the final or the outcome of having assessment is for sure that we would like to know the student's competence. Okay, Pak Endarto will continue our presentation, and then just like I told you before, we are going to have a TikTok presentation after this, after Pak Endarto, and Pak Endarto will give it back to me later on. Please, Pak Endarto.
Thank you, Bu Endang. So, can everyone hear my voice? Is it echoing right now? Okay. Yeah. So it's interesting to listen to the previous presentations because we have got quite a big picture of how English is being assessed in Indonesia. And I would like to start with the next slide. I would like to start with this question. So the participants, could you please type in the chat box the answer to this question? Why do we need to assess? So we might feel that testing has been quite an integral part in our life, right? Some of us might even, feel like our parents are testing us many times, right? So not only teachers, but also parents. So testing has been an integral part in our life. Now the question is, why do we think that we need to assess our students? So you can type your answer in the chat box. And I would like to continue with this distinction between online and offline assessments. So the COVID-19 pandemic has made us, have no other option than testing our students online. And we need to make some adjustment here and there in order to present the assessment and also the test successfully. And now, what about the differences between the two? If we focus on the offline assessment first, you might be familiar that most of the assessments are paper-based, and they usually are done through direct performance-based. Now, what about the administration? The offline tests are usually administered through manual administration, right? Where the teachers, they become like the proctors of the assessment. And then the students, they become the test takers. And then the third one, we have reliance on time and place availability, because we're gonna need a room, right, to hold that test. And then the schools and also the teachers will need to set up a schedule for both the teachers and the students. And lastly, we can have direct proctoring, the teacher functioning as the proctors. Yeah. Now, what about the online? So if we have online assessments, we're going to need a computer at least, an internet connection, right? And then we might have some features that are enabled in the offline settings, like, for example, automation, right? So we might have automated grading in our assessment. And then the third one, we have reliance on computer and software and internet. So previously in the offline setting, we depend on the room and also the availability of time. Now in online settings, it can be done everywhere. Everywhere actually, we cannot do it in the restroom, for example. It can be done anywhere and also anytime, right? But then it will depend on certain aspects like the computer and also the software and also the internet connection. And then another thing that we need to consider is proctoring. So is it possible for us to conduct an online assessment with the availability of proctoring? Yeah, so can we proctor our students when they have the online assessments? That is actually a big question that we might need to answer. And if we get to the next slide, I would also like to talk about the design of the assessment. So I took this model from Brown with some adjustment, because that design, I believe, was created for the offline settings. And here I made some adjustment by including technology into the design. So the typical design that we usually have when creating an assessment or test is this as the first one, as the previous presenters mentioned. It should be the objectives or the purpose first, and then the technology second, right? So this is the first stage. We need to determine the purpose and also the objectives of the test. And then after that, based on the purpose and objectives that might have been gathered through needs assessment, we can create the test specifications and the test task items, right? In that stage, we might need to create like a blueprint of the test. And afterward, we're gonna have specifying scoring procedures, because if we have the test items, we're gonna need to score. So we're gonna need to think of how to score the assessment and also the test. And the last one is making some appropriate evaluations, because a good test demands good evaluations in that case. And I put the online technology here in the center because, well, in the offline setting, we can put technology after all these stages, because technology has become like a media for us to teach and to assess. But in offline setting, we cannot avoid thinking about online technology since the beginning, because since the first stage, uh, we're going to have to think about the technology. Why? Because the online technology is the only modalities, the only way for us to deliver the assessment to the students. We don't have any other way. We cannot uh, give it face to face other than through, let's say, Zoom or Google Meet in that case. So online technology should be thought since the first stage of the test design. And then the next slide. Of course, with those opportunities, there are some challenges that we need to address. And it's actually A, B, C, D, and E. Yeah? So we have A to E. The A is cheating, and then B is unauthorized help during assessment. So I think it's the major violation that the students might make when they have assessment. So when they have they ask for help from their friends, maybe the more clever one, and then they have their friends to do the assessment instead of themselves. So that's gonna be a major violation, right? Or they might ask for help. That's another form of cheating, right? So A, we have cheating. B, we have unauthorized help during assessment, and help may also come from the parents, right? When we want to assess the students, the parents might help during the assessment. So I think that's also quite a challenge. And then C, many students are more comfortable with computers than their instructors are, right? I think that's the common reality that we're facing right now, because most of our students are younger than us. And yeah, that's quite a challenge. And then T, we have technology problems, right? And then E, we have boredom from the side of the students. Well, a more positive phrase might be low motivation. Yeah. So we have low motivation from the student side. Now, I'd like you to rate uh, those 5 aspects. Which one do you think is the biggest challenge we are facing during the distant learning, during the distant assessment? Is it A, cheating, or B, unauthorized help? Is it C or D, technology problems, or E, boredom or low motivation? You can type the answer in the chat box. And we can get to the next slide. Okay, so I can see that most of you typed A and B, yeah? Cheating and unauthorized help. That's quite interesting. And also D, low motivation. I think that's also the case when we, not only in assessment, but also in learning, when we have like Zoom or Google, Google Meet, yeah, usually the students might do other things instead of just listening to our explanation. And that's also the case with testing and assessment. All right. Another things that we're going to need to consider when developing or designing online tests and assessments are these 5 principles. Those are classic principles from Brown also, because when we're talking about assessments and testing, we cannot avoid talking about 2 scholars. Yeah, I call them double B's. Yeah, so the first B is Brown, and the second one is Bloom's Bloom. Yeah, or we may refer to Bloom's taxonomy, because that is very famous notion in assessment, right? And fun fact, the term assessment was introduced to the field of education in around 1955 or 56, if I'm not mistaken, and that's about the same time as the introduction of Bloom's taxonomy. So there might be a relationship between Bloom's taxonomy and also assessment. Because when we have the taxonomy as our goal, right, as our brand new goals of teaching, we're gonna need to think of how to assess those skills. And surprisingly, the taxonomy has not been beaten yet until now. So it's quite an unbeatable concept, right? It has been revised, but there is no other taxonomy that could beat Bloom's taxonomy. So we still refer to the taxonomy as the way to assess, as the thing to assess, yeah. And then we have these 5 principles. The first one is validity, yeah, from Brown, and then reliability. For validity, we have phase validity, construct validity, criterion-oriented validity, and many others. And then reliability, right, about many factors, maybe from the test takers, from the classroom settings, if it is offline, right. Then practicality, how efficient is the test or the assessment to be implemented. And then authenticity, that's related to whether the materials being assessed are representative enough to the real world situation. And then the washback is related to the testing effects on teaching and learning. Now, those 5 principles are very famous in offline settings. But then the question is, can we apply those 5 principles in online? That's another question that we're going to need to answer. So, for example, like reliability, when we're talking about reliability in terms of the classroom, the way the test is organized in a classroom, it might have different requirements from when we have the assessment or the test online, because then we don't need any classroom anymore, right? And we don't have any proctor anymore. So those 5 principles raise big questions whether they are still applicable to be implemented online, and we might discuss it. I'll just leave that open for discussion, and we might get to the next slide, perhaps. Okay, so for the next slide, I'll give it back to Dr. Endang to continue.
Thank you very much, Pak Endarto. Ladies and gentlemen, participants, Pak Endarto here, he teaches assessments, yeah, language teaching, language, what do you call that? Language tests and assessments, yeah. So actually he is the expert here. Well, because my interest in the ESP, so I also teach ESP. So actually today I am accompanying Pak Endarto, yeah, in this presentation. All right, so Bapak and Ibu, as I told you before, that we are going to have examples of assessing the 4 skills. Online assessment, these examples are based on our experiences so far. So excuse us because you are teaching university students. So the examples are taken from the subjects that we are teaching. Based on the chat room, I saw some of you said that cheating becomes the most challenging thing that we face during administering the online assessment. So we propose two activities that we can do to overcome the issue of cheating. The first is avoid situations that encourage cheating. For sure, the multiple choices questions are not suitable for this, because then it will encourage, if not cheating, then they will just do like choosing something. If they don't understand, they just randomly choose the answers. And then the second one, to overcome the issue of cheating, is make the assessment a learning experience. So if they experience the assessment as a learning experience, then the students will not see that they are doing the test, they are being assessed by the teachers. And the assessment could also improve their skills. In this case, if we want to assess their reading, speaking, listening, and writing skills, then they should experience all the skills. I'll start with the first examples. Assessing reading. Okay. The moderator, Bu Arita, already informed that I teach Bahasa Inggris Informatika. This is the objective of this subject is reading. So this is an example that I give the students for my final test. I use Google Form. Okay. This is synchronous or real time. I start, like, for example, 10:30, and then I close the Google Form at 12 o'clock, for example. Yeah. And Data already mentioned the Bloom taxonomy, which is unbeatable. I agree with that. No other taxonomy has beaten this Bloom taxonomy, even though this is already revised. And I'm sure that Bapak Ibu also you are familiar with the HOTS and LOTS, yeah, the higher order thinking skills and also the lower order thinking skills. I suggest for the online assessment, online tests, please do not try to give the students the LOTS or the lower order thinking skills, because how many challenges, Pak Endang? The 5 challenges that we face for the online assessments are there for the LOTS. Okay, so I give the students the reading passage first, but then I also combine the LOTS and HOTS for this reading. The LOTS, I use the LOTS first. Why? Because psychologically, when students are having tests, not only students, but the teachers, everybody, when we are having tests, then psychologically we will feel nervous. Okay, so to overcome being nervous, for the first questions, I have the LOTS questions, which is comprehension questions, and which is very easy to be answered. But after that, the next one, it needs the HOTS, or the higher order thinking skills, summarizing the article and critically review. Okay, the students learn how to summarize summarize reading passages, especially the international journal, and they also practice how to review article. Before they did this final test, the article was given in advance, so a day before that, so they have time to read that. And if the students want to collaborate or to ask their friends about the article, it's allowed and it's good, because then they will learn something from that. They will learn how to understand reading by collaborating with their friends. But then for this task, they have to do it individually, and they directly type it on this Google Form. Right, this is my experience about the reading. Actually, many other forms of reading assessment is also administered in that class, especially when we have to combine not only reading skills, but reading and speaking, for example. Like they have free presentation, which is very good. I really enjoyed seeing their free presentation. Okay, that's about reading. Now speaking, assessing speaking. I teach speaking for academic purposes. And here is an example of my assessment to the students. So again, Bapak Ibu, when we want to assess students or assess our the learners, we should always refer to our learning outcomes or CPMK, capaian pembelajaran mata kuliah. And this is what we also do in our study program in PBI, that the test or the assessment should be based on the learning outcomes. Right, the task instructions, I will read it for you. Based on previously learned materials, make a vlog on issues in English education studies. The vlog should be based on an interview with an EAP teacher. So they will interview EAP teacher and then make a vlog, and they will upload the vlog in the social media, can be YouTube, Facebook, or even Google Drive, right? But once again, we have to be fair. If we want to assess speaking and writing especially, we need rubric. So the students know what to do. This is also common in our department. So here is the rubric. I still remember on the first webinar, one participant asked about holistic or analytical rubric, and we have this too. Here is the rubric for my speaking class, and then Pak Endang will later on also show you the rubric for his writing class. And I'd like to share the result of this, only about 2 minutes. This is one of our students. And this is the result of the vlog.
Hello, my name is Elnora Mainambaban. I'm an English language education student from Wacana. So, I have interviewed one ESP teacher, which is Miss Duta from ICE. She is a 10 years experienced teacher. I interviewed her about the problem of being an ESP teacher and how she solved it. From her experience as a teacher, she hasn't really found a specific problem, but only challenges. As an example, one English course material she taught couldn't be applied for other classes. She had to manage and modify it depending on the needs and situation of the class. In delivering material, she had to adjust depending on the students too, especially for the slow learners. She had to speak slowly in order to make them understand. It might take 2 or 3 times to repeat until they got what she had said. So the conclusion is, EAP teachers have to adjust with the students and situation no matter what problem they are going to face. That's all about my interview and my report. Thank you. Mainambaban. I'm an English.
Okay. Sorry. All right. So that's the example of the result of the test. That's the mid-test actually, the final test actually, to avoid all the challenges in online learning, online assessment especially. I encourage them to collaborate or to work together with their friends. So for the final test, they were having collaboration. They were preparing for a webinar. Some of them became the MC, and some of them the moderators, and some of them the roles as the presenters and the audience, and it works very well for that. So don't bother a lot about much about the cheating issue, because we can overcome the cheating issue by trying to design our assessment better for the online. All right, for the next skills, Pak Endang will continue. Please, Pak Endang.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Endang. Yeah, actually, my background was in linguistics, as you mentioned, and Dr. Endang is specialized in teaching, education, and also ESP. That's why I have her as my partner in this presentation because, yeah, as she mentioned, the title of the presentation is quite hard to do. Actually, made easy. The phrase is quite hard to do. Okay, um, this slide might answer Pak uh, Katma Atmaja's question. I saw that question in the chat box. Pak Karta Atmaja, good morning, Pak. Okay, so I'm gonna give some examples of how I assess listening through online platforms. So, okay, I'm gonna categorize the the tools, the online tools that we can use, that teachers can use in assessing online. So the first one is LMS or Learning Management System. So if we're having a class, uh, LMS is badly needed because it's like a substitute for the classroom that we're having. So it's like the digital classroom, the digital version of our classroom. That is LMS. So we need to select the right LMS based on the nature of the class and also the nature of the assessment that we're going to conduct. And then the second one, we have um, the collaboration platforms or the collaboration tools. I'm gonna give you some examples later on. And then we're gonna also need some video conferencing tools. If we're going to do a real-time, communication, we might need those tools. And also we're gonna need another thing is the quiz generator. Like I think you all are familiar with Kahoot and also quizzes that Bu Endang has demonstrated at the beginning. So at least we need those four tools for our online assessment. Yeah, we might need more, but those four tools I think are the crucial ones. Yeah. All right. Now, what about assessing learning? So my favorite LMS that I use to assess learning is Schoology. And like it is mentioned in the first and second presentation by uh, uh, the the first and the second presenters, yeah, um, we have to test some lots, unfortunately, right? We have to test some lower order thinking skills, unfortunately, based on what I saw in the basic competence and also um, how do we call it, basic competence and main competence in Indonesia. The government require us to teach in high schools, yeah, to teach um, skills like remembering and also understanding or comprehending. So I think receptive skills would be an ideal skills to assess those cognitive aspects, right? And listening, for example, can well facilitate us to assess the the comprehension skills or the understanding skills or analyzing skills. Okay, so what I did with the Schoology is I used the quiz feature, and I'd like to mention that the quiz feature in Schoology is pretty much diverse in terms of what we can do with with those features. So we can create like jumbled questions or even matching questions, multiple choice, open-ended questions. So we can adjust the questions. And then another feature that I think is crucial for listening, for assessing listening, is this media feature. So we can attach, we can include any kinds of media like picture, video, audio. So any media that we can use for assessing listening, we can include in the test in our quiz. So one example of the media that I use here is a video from YouTube. And I'd like to mention that it's actually not in a listening class. It's actually in the language testing and assessment class, if I'm not mistaken. So but the skill is listening. Yeah, I assess listening in this case, listening about the theories of LTA, language testing and assessment. And what I did is I attached this video from YouTube. If you want to have a video without subtitles, you can upload your video and then attach the video here. So actually you have that option. And then when the students click start new attempt, we can get to the next slide. They'll have the questions right away with the timer. And I think the timer here is very important if we want to make sure that the students do not cheat. Because if we set the right time, they will not have the time to look at the other sources, right? So timer might help, and it is provided by the Schoology. We can set the time for each question or for the whole assessment or test. And then in the next slide, and next slide. For assessing listening, you might also use real-time types of tests or assessment by using Zoom. An idea that came to mind was this: you might use the Zoom as a proctoring tools, and then you can do the assessment via Google, Google Form, for example. And then while they're working on the Google Form, you can monitor the students the way they work through Zoom or Google Meet. Yeah, of course, if you have the internet connection, that is quite good. And then in the next example, we're going to get to the assessing writing in the next slide. For the assessing writing that I provide here as an example, I also use Schoology. So in the Schoology, you might assess writing using hot types questions in this way, in this kind of way. So you can post the question that is hot question, and then the students might type their answer in the comment section. That's going to be like a formative, because then the students will have the ability to comment on their friends' work and give feedback. So that can be a way. And then in the next slide. Or you may also use this kind of assignment. This is the assignment feature of the Schoology. So you may have them read first, because we're focusing on the writing. They may read more than one text if we want to focus on the critical thinking or hot skills. And then based on what they have read, we can ask critical questions afterward. And then in the next slide. Yeah, this is another example. And I think we can get, okay. And you may also attach rubric or make a new rubric in the Schoology. So the Schoology provides you with that feature. And then next. Or you may also use Google Docs. I think that's a good collaboration tool, right? Because then you can track the changes here based on the history. We can see how the students revise their work, or they may collaborate with their friends. And then in the next slide, final notes. The first one, well, of course, those notes are used to address those challenges. Yeah. The first one, we might ask hot questions for some types of skills to assess, right? And then we might need to make the assessment a learning experience, as what Dr. Endang has demonstrated. And then we might create personalized tests for each students. And then we might also need to define cheating and encourage honesty, because cheating is it's getting blurred, right? It's blurring more than ever in the online context. Will we consider those who open, let's say, Google Translate or another source as cheating? Of course, it will depend on the question and the nature of the assessment, right? And then we might ask question about proctoring, right? How can we proctor the assessment? And then we might implement collaboration and also peer monitoring or evaluation. For the effective skill, that's also effective, I believe. And then we may use timer, might help, but not always. Gamification, we can talk about that maybe in the discussion. And then we might also need to plan for the unexpected due to the technical problems and the other technical issues. All right. And I would also like to share a bit of information about the for the technology. I've mentioned about that earlier. And then in the next slide. Yeah, so if you want to learn more about technology, how to integrate technology into our assessments or into our teaching in general, or if you would like to learn more about teaching ESP, English for Specific Purposes. Right now, the English department of UKDW is having a collaboration with Ohio University in the United States to hold an online course. Yeah, we have 2 courses to offer, and you can choose one of those 2 courses. If you would like to, get more information about that, you can get it after you, you fill out the evaluation form. Yeah. Okay, and I think that's the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all the speakers, Ibu Yuana, Ibu Tuti, Ibu Endang, and Pak Endar for the inspiring and insightful materials and also ideas to be applied in our classes. Before we continue with the Q&A, I would like to say hello to all participants who are also joining us from YouTube. And of course, participants from all over the world, like Ibu Siska Larsen, who won the quiz. I think Ibu Endang can provide a special gift for the winners. Yeah. Okay. And also thank you for all the participants who actively participated by answering questions through the chat box. And then, well, I plan to give some opportunities for you to raise your hand and address your question to the speakers directly, but I'm so sorry since we only have limited time. I'm going to ask the speakers to share their email address or Instagram or Facebook. Could you please write how you can be reached by our participants to discuss further about their questions, which could not be discussed right now. And then Bapak Ibu, please check at the chat box. The link for evaluation is already available. And for the materials, it will be available in our website, ukdw.ac.id, ukdw.ac.id, in the download center or pusat unduhan. Okay, for the first question. Okay, I have noted we have 13 questions for everybody here, for all speakers. Question number 1 to 6 is addressed to Ibu Yuana, and I have transferred the questions to her, so she's going to answer this question directly. Please, Ibu Yuana.
Okay, thank you, Ibu. I'm going to answer the question from Ibu Haryani. The question is about how to choose the skill, whether listening or speaking or reading or writing. I feel the same with Ibu. The first time we got the basic competence, there is no, what is it? In the previous meeting, we have this is for listening, this is for speaking, this is for reading and writing. But in the 2013 curriculum, we only have pengetahuan and keterampilan. So what I usually do is I do a mapping. So for example, in this semester, I'm going to teach 5 basic competence. So I look at the basic competence. For the transactional text, then I try to, most of the transactional text, which is about language function, I can explore, or I can give the student in listening and speaking. But sometimes when I have to teach about grammar, transactional and grammar, in the input text, I use written. So in general, I do a mapping. Whether these basic competence will give more focus and listening or speaking. Okay, I hope I answer your question. And then the second one is the question from Bapak Gunarso, who asked about the difference between menangkap makna and membedakan. Membedakan belongs to pengetahuan and menangkap makna belongs to keterampilan. So what I have explained before, that we do not have clear, clear boundary between pengetahuan and keterampilan. Jadi berbeda dengan kalau misalnya olahraga, ini pengetahuan, ini keterampilan. Kalau di bahasa Inggris, itu adalah jarak antara pengetahuan dan keterampilan itu tidak jelas. So what I usually do is that, in pengetahuan, if you want to assess pengetahuan, then we can have a kind of comprehension question. And then if I want to assess keterampilan, then I ask the student to read the text, for example, and I ask them to retell or rewrite or making a summary. Because to make a summary, to retell a text or to rewrite a text, they need to understand. Jadi harus memahami dulu, baru bisa kemudian melakukan itu. Kalau untuk yang creating, they have to create new text. Okay, again, I hope I answered your question, Bapak. And then question number 3 from Ibu Justika. Ibu Justika said that it seems that chart and table are interesting to teach for the student. And then in what how we should teach chart and table. As I have told you before that my background is senior high school student. So in senior high school, there is a basic competence, which is about caption. And then in caption, in that basic competence, it includes giving caption to chart and table. So I'm sorry, Ibu, because you are from junior high school, so you do not have this basic competence. And then the last is a question from, I forgot the name, but the question is about how to deal with low motivation student with low vocabulary. I only have 2 keys, Ibu. So my keys are be patient, and the second is teaching is helping students. So I keep telling myself that I have to be patient and I have to help my student. So the way how I help my student can depend on the student, and I'm sure that you know your student better. Thank you, Ibu. That's all that I can answer from the question. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Yuana. So the questions are coming from Ibu Ervira Maya Sinta from SMPN 4 Semin Gunung Kidul, and then Bapak Gunarso Sarwoko from SMA Stero, and then Ibu Nur Aida Arifa from Universitas Sarjana Wiyata Taman Siswa, and then Ibu Haryani T from SMP Negeri 4 Kuandang. And then we also have Ibu Justika Ilmiawati from SMP Perak, Yogyakarta. And then the last question that Ibu Yuana just answered was from Ibu Diana Susilawati from SMA N1 Seputih Agung Sentral, Lampung Regency. All right, and then the next question goes to Ibu Tuti from Nanda Aprilian, from SMPN 35 Muko. We know cause of pandemic of COVID-19, school activity has been non-active since few months ago until now. So how to build better bridge competence when we don't know the characteristic of our students? On this case about our students. Ibu Tuti, please.
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. Yeah, it's the issue, the latest issue, because now we have the pandemic of COVID-19. Ibu, as we know that nowadays, on Monday all schools are open, so the student back to school, not back to school I think, but back online, most of them, and not easy because all of the school, for the schedule, not full time. For nowadays, maybe the previous one for English lesson, one period 45 minutes, but for nowadays maybe half, So for 2 periods, it can be maybe 30 or 40 minutes. So based on the regulation or the, based on the, schools, and how to create the good bridge. So as I said that the class. The class is a diverse of students, so it consists of students with a various background and motivation. So we have to create a creative, innovative bridge. So based on the needs of students. Yeah. So it is not easy to create the activities only for 20 minutes or for 50 minutes. And we see that in a class, there are some, smart students, but the other maybe low, yeah. So we see that they're not easy, but we must be patient again. Teaching is challenging, yet being a teacher is very challenging. So we must come or attend the class with a bunch of love, yeah, with a patient. So we understand the students well, and please help all of them. Yeah, so we must be fair because the learning teaching process must go on. And if some one or two students cannot, follow the lesson, because during the class, we can, it's like detect, analyze which student must be helped. Yeah. So after the learning teaching process, we may ask them, and usually each school, has a, like activity, like for instance, pendalaman materi. It's like additional class or additional course. Yeah, so we may ask the students to come or to attend the class. Or maybe some schools have like a clinic, yeah, class clinic. So all students are free, yeah, to ask the teachers. So all the students will get the competencies, yeah, the target competencies. So the goal of teaching and learning fulfilled. Okay. And one more, yeah, because for nowadays, because of the pandemic, not easy, and think that we may not judge that one instrument is the best one. Yeah. So it's like, oh, Google Classroom is the best one. No, because look at the needs of the users. Yeah. And not only the technology, but also the time and, yeah, the needs of all. Yeah, because we must be fair, so we must help all students. And when we understand the needs, so we may create the best bridge, yeah, to make the students understand. Or maybe because of the time, yeah, maybe the teacher may have the students have a student visit. So when the student visit, I think this is good because based on the guidance of learning in new normal, so the teachers are expected to visit the students. So during the visit, the teacher will have the feedback or assessment and many others. Okay, I think that's all. Thank
Yeah.
you for the question.
Thank you, Ibu Tuti. And then you have a quick answer for this one. The next question is for Dr. Endang. If you were a teacher in SMP, which one you will use in assessing your students' ability, online or offline? Give me your reasons, please. Thank you, Ibu Endang, please.
Okay, thank you very much. A very quick answer. In this pandemic situation, for sure, online. But for the normal situation, I think I like to see the students face to face. But then, just like what we discussed, Pak Endang and I, about the challenges of between online and offline, then we have to be able to do both as a teacher, especially right now, because this distance learning is a must right now. So we like it or not, online or offline, we have to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Endang. That was very quick and comprehensive. Okay, last question for Pak Endar. Yeah, Pak Endar, you have answered the first question from Pak Karta Atmaja, but we have a follow-up question from Ibu Fransisca. Can we prevent students from pausing or replaying audios or videos? Pak Endar, please.
We cannot really do that because I'm using Schoology. We cannot really do that using the Schoology features, but we may set the timer for the whole assessment. So for example, for the whole assessment, let's say we give 30 minutes, it means that the students can play or replay the video and answer the questions during that 30 minutes. So if we don't want the students to replay the video, then we can just set the, maybe shorter time for answering the questions. But of course, different technology might have different features.
Okay, thank you, Pak Endar. Actually, we still have some questions from Ibu Diana Susilawati from SMAN 1 Seputi Agung, Central Lampung Regency, and then from Ibu Diana, okay, also for all speakers, and from Ibu Setiari Mestikawati, also for all speakers. I teach 12 classes, more than 300 students, how to assess them effectively. However, unfortunately, we don't have much time left. Even I think this is when we are supposed to end this conference. But please allow me to remind you all again, all the speakers have written their email address. So kindly contact them directly, have further discussions. If you have other concerns, I believe they would be very happy to discuss further with you. And don't forget, next week and the next 2 weeks, we still have our 3rd and 4th session. So make sure you keep yourself posted with the latest news and programs. You can join our YouTube or Zoom meeting by completing the registration form, or you can also follow our Instagram, Prodi PBI UKDW, and feel free to email us for further information at pbi@staff.ukgw.ac.id. Okay, Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you very much for joining us. Keep yourself posted, stay happy, healthy, and please open your video because we're going to have our group picture. Mas Penta, we're going to have our group picture. Yeah, the participants, we have quite a lot, but some are already leaving. Yeah, let's have our group picture. Yeah, let's see on the pages. Okay, make sure that you smile, yeah. While waiting for the process, you can also check the chat box for the evaluation form and make sure you complete it. Yeah, as soon as you completed the evaluation form, you can check the link for your e-certificate and then you can download it. If you need an evidence for the attendance, you can also do a screenshot on the screen. Yeah, you can keep that for the attendance list if it is required. Okay, Mas Penta? Banyak yang apa? Oh, okay, Bapak Ibu, please let us see your smile, yeah. Okay, we have a lot of participants and okay, first page. Okay, Pak Eka, sorry, probably Ibu Eka, Wahyuningsih, and then yeah, first page, we can see everybody, Mas Penta. Okay, page 2. Okay, Ibu Elsa, Ibu Putri, Bapak Erwin Ika, okay, Nur Aida, Nanda, mari, Bapak Ibu. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Timotheus, okay, Pony, yeah. Okay, Mas Penta, could you please, okay, page 3, okay, nobody is showing here, okay, that's okay. Next, Mas Penta. Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, Bapak Ibu, me, Arida, and all the colleagues here, thank you very much again for joining us. See you all next week. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Okay.
Ini